Hi, my name is Geoffrey.
My name is James McInnes.
I'm William MacLeod.
The Reverend Nathan Owen.
And I want to explain my involvement in challenging the Scottish Government about shutting down a church and criminalising public worship.
We cannot afford to close churches during what is the most certainly one of the greatest challenges that's facing our world.
Because the church offers life to the dead. It offers hope to the hopeless. It offers light to those living in darkness.
In a time of famine, you don't go and burn a country's crops. In a storm, you don't shut down the lighthouses, take a cricket bat to the lamp. And when the nation faces a life and death crisis, you don't close down the one source of true hope that Scotland has turned to for centuries.
Never has it been more urgent for the gospel of Jesus Christ to be heard in our beloved land. Never has it been more fitting for the civil government, far from closing the churches, to fulfill their duty under God and encourage people to hear what God is saying to us.
People are struggling, people are dying in our communities. They need access to the church.
Now, we do recognise that the situation of COVID is something very serious, and churches throughout this past year have sought to follow a number of guidelines which have been given by the government in order to protect public health and safety.
Churches have demonstrated that they are one of the most COVID secure parts of our society.
We have sought to put in place the social distancing, the hand washing. We have compromised in many ways, but this ban has completely destroyed the legality of being allowed to meet together as God has commanded us.
I serve a number of people, some of whom really are very vulnerable, and I've seen firsthand the really quite dire consequences of what shutting churches has done in the lives of a number of people.
Maybe you're not living in an area where I live in, but I live on a council estate. I live on a scheme within Scotland, within Edinburgh. And there is a lot of darkness here. There is a lot of hopelessness. People struggling with drug and alcohol addiction.
Several people in my own neighbourhood who have taken their own lives because they have no hope.
Single mothers struggling. People with mental health finding that their mental health is even worse now than it was before.
It has brought also a great deal of isolation. These restrictions are supposed to be about protecting the vulnerable, and yet it is causing the vulnerable in our fellowship to suffer great anxiety over isolation.
Presently, if you were to pass away, I can conduct your funeral service, but the current legislation may hinder me from offering pastoral support and spiritual encouragement as you're dying.
God says, preach the gospel. The government says, close the churches. But people are dying. Many people are afraid. We have the glad tidings of great joy.
So we think the churches being open is not just a human right or a Scottish constitutional matter, but it's actually one of the most vitally important ways our society can respond during this pandemic.
The church has to open up. The church is essential. The church needs to do what it's called to do by God.
Remember, the soul is more important than the body. Eternity is more important than time. So we feel very strongly that in a time like this, the churches should be open.